Hey everyone, welcome back to CJ Classic Truck. We have another video with Old Big Red today. The plan is to try to get Old Big Red to be rolling by the end of this video. So we're gonna jump into it, try to free up all these wheels and see what it takes to do so. First thing I'm gonna do is take off this front wheel here, because as you can tell, doesn't really like to roll. So hopefully after I get the wheel off, I'll be able to take apart the brakes and then we'll be able to get it to roll from there, because more than likely the brakes are freezing this entire thing up. I did loosen up some of these lug nuts already just to make sure they weren't going to end up being a problem for us. Surprisingly enough, the wheel isn't stuck on the hub. Alright, this is pretty gross, so I'm going to clean this up a little bit and then we'll start digging into it and hopefully figuring out the problem here. So we got this cleaned up pretty well, but I have no idea what this abomination is. Ooh, I think it was a bee's nest at one point actually. I think that's a dead bee in there. Yeah, it was a dead bee, I think. Alright, what's in mystery number 2 here? More dead bees? Ugh, yep, okay. Not as cool as I thought it was going to be, but yeah, just a bunch of dead bees. Now that we have this all cleaned up and I can actually see what we're looking at, we're going to pop off this end cap here. And then we're going to take out the cotter pin that's in here, take off the nut, and then we should be able to get this front brake apart then. Keyword should. All right, so now the cotter pin's out. We'll see if I have the right size socket, which I don't. So let me go get one size bigger and then we should be able to pop this off. All right, now that I have the correct size socket, we'll pop this guy off. And there should be like a washer in here. Yep, there's our washer. God, there's a lot of grease in here. We got our bearing. Set that guy down. And then, should be able to get this cover off. Might have to beat on it a little bit. There we go. Yeah, there's a lot of crud in there. So I'm looking at the brakes here and I got a lot of the debris and spider webs and other junk cleaned off of them to get a better look at them. The more I looked at them, the more they actually fell apart without really touching them. So with that being said, we're not going to end up using these brakes again. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to disconnect the whole braking system, and then that should unlock the wheel and be able to have the wheel spin freely. So we're just going to jump into that, start disconnecting everything here. Like I said, it's already been falling apart without even touching it, and we'll see what happens. So as you guys just saw in time lapse, I ended up just ripping off the drum brakes, which is all laying right here. It's all junk. We're not going to reuse this. I mean, like we said in the original videos, this truck has been sitting for 30 years, and I am not going to trust these brakes after sitting for 30 years. Good news is, though, after we remove the brakes, this hub is now spinning freely, so we have one side done. We can put this wheel back on. We know this corner will roll. Now we just have to get all the other sides to roll. So we're gonna work our way to the back here, check out the back, and see what we can do for them. So before I start disconnecting the brakes on the rear end of the truck, I was in here seeing if I could get the transmission out of gear, because originally when we first picked up the truck, this transmission was stuck in gear and I couldn't get it out. I was actually able to get it out of gear, and I think that's neutral. Keyword, I think. Now, when I have it here, if we head to the back of the truck, I can actually get like a little bit of a turn out of this. Now, I don't know if it's just not fully turning because the other wheel's locked up, but what I'm gonna do first is I'm actually gonna disconnect the brakes. I was originally gonna just disconnect the drive shaft and then hope that would be enough. But before I do that, I'm actually just gonna take apart the brakes in the rear end as well and then see if it spins. If it doesn't, then I'm gonna end up disconnecting the drive shaft so the rear end can roll as well too. All right, so the rear drum is pretty stuck. I've been beating on this thing for a little bit, sprayed it with PB Blaster about 30 minutes ago, trying to get it to free up, but I'm pretty sure the axle is honestly rusted to the hub. What I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna try to beat it from the backside. I started to get this to free up a little bit, but it's still pretty stuck. So I'm gonna beat it from the backside, see if I can get it to come loose. If it doesn't come loose, then we're gonna have to break out a torch, heat all this up, and then try to get it off from there. So after a lot of beating and getting some of my aggression out, I finally got this rear drum off. Again, basically same thing as the front. Everything's pretty shot in here. I was never planning on reusing any of this. So just to get this wheel to spin freely, I'm just gonna remove all the brakes, just like we did on the front, and then we're gonna see if the wheel spins. So as you can see, I got all the brakes removed from the rear. And if you're watching that time lapse, do not follow anything that I just did. If you're removing drum brakes at home, that's not how you remove drum brakes at all. I just took them off the fastest way that I could since we're not going to be reusing them. But now that I do have the brakes off, you can see that I actually still have the same amount of play in here. Now this could be because that the brakes on the other side are locked up, or there could be another issue. So what I'm gonna end up doing is I'm gonna take all the brakes off the other side of the rear, see if I can get this to spin, and then if I can't, I might disconnect the drive shaft and then go from there and see if we can get the rear end to roll at all. All right, so I definitely figured out why we weren't really getting the rear end to roll, and that's because these brakes were so locked up on the outer drum that it was causing the drum to not even come off of everything. So after a lot of beating on it and prying on it, I finally got it to come off. This is literally how the brakes are sitting under the drum. The springs are all missing to keep it aligned and everything, so definitely makes sense on why the rear end was so locked up. So again, I'm just gonna remove all the brakes here, put the wheel on, and see if we can get the rear end to roll. And again, too, this is not how you remove drum brakes, but we're just trying to get it done quickly. So with all of the brakes disconnected from the rear, we luckily have some movement now. So it looks like our rear end is going to be able to roll. Actually, before I even say that, the other side was still kind of iffy. So now that this side's freed up, let's walk over there and see if that side's freed up at all. Oh yeah, this side. Okay, cool. So yeah, it's official. We got the rear end moving and free. The only thing I have to do is disconnect the brake from the driver's side front and then put some tires on, and Big Red is officially rolling again. Well, Old Big Red is officially a roller again. The only thing we need to do at this point is mount and balance 2 tires and then put the wheels back on and take it off its jack stands, which you'll see very shortly. All right, so a couple of days have passed since you've seen that last clip. I had to figure out a tire situation here for Old Big Red, and luckily I kind of figured it out. We put 2 other tires on here, but they're still leaking a little bit, but it should hold enough air for us to be able to roll it around and push it around and move it all around the studio here. So I'm gonna go ahead and throw these front wheels on, get this thing off jack stands, and then we're gonna see Old Big Red roll for the first time in probably 30 years. With all 4 wheels back on Old Big Red, it's time to remove the jack stands and see if it actually rolls again. Well, we got Old Big Red rolling, and I gotta say I am super happy about it. This is probably the first time this truck has rolled in 30 years, maybe even longer than that, and I'm pretty excited because I'm hoping that we're gonna be able to get this thing running next. But before we get it running, I do wanna show you guys how to protect and preserve and make your patina shine. So if you wanna see that video, just turn on those post notifications and then you'll never miss an upload with us. Now it is time to drop a gear and disappear. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you need any classic truck part needs, just click the link down below in the description.